Okay.
Okay, here we are, number 3.
Private chat.
Rooster Moon. No one's here today. It's okay. Kind of get a little bit of my head. That's fine. So tell us about Rooster Moon, homie. Good answer. Good answer.
Well, I was going to ask you, like, how's the tiger crane, sort of treating you?
Wow. That's essentially what it is, huh? And
Full on or like pinpoint strike? Like,
wow. So that's very Hungar. Tiger crane. It really draws to mind these classic relationships of tiger crane, tiger dragon, dragon rat, monkey horse. Have you ever heard of the monkey horse relationship? In Chinese, we say ma sang, right? If something soon or quickly, or it'll happen fast. Ma sang zhou lai le. Ma sang zhou lai le. It'll be here fast. So ma sang literally translates to on top of a horse. But what's on top of the horse?
Right.
It's a monkey.
It's monkey. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with what you have. So how am I relating to this tiger?
Tiger crane.
Crane. Oh, also snake crane too.
Oh, yeah.
But tiger crane. I feel the charge. There's an aggressiveness this time of year. It's like yang is descending, but not without a fight, And I could also feel like the aloofness, like this big, broad expansiveness of a wing. So there's like this angry distance. Angry distance. That's what I'll label this episode of Rooster Moon. Angry distance.
Yeah. Heat-seeking missile.
Wow, yeah, because the tiger, rears back, crouches.
Yeah. And then whack.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. Lies in wait. I mean, it's interesting because the elemental configurations are Earth, and again with the Earth, like Earth Monkey, now Earth Rooster, and the water. And there is a kind of feeling of potential containment, but those things of which the time has come, then it becomes much more poignant, where that precision strike has actually got the force of a fire hose behind it, So there's this containment of the water, and then it'll come through in that one precise strike. You get hit with the fire hose. Yeah, because fire, it's devastating, potentially devastating.
So that's like the precision of a lightweight with the hit of a heavyweight.
Right. Yeah. When you're looking at the combination of the moon and the year, that's really, I think, what's at stake. Because you do have this emergence of the autumn, right? This is technically a harvest moon. And none of us are farmers. So we think it's meaningless, they think, oh, harvest moon, I'll go get some tomatoes, but like it's actually it also means a conclusion. Harvest means conclusion, like the image of the image of the scythe, right? Excellent for farming and harvesting before you had combines and such, but then becomes metaphorically used in depictions of death.
Yes, the rebirth.
Right. So there is a sort of metaphorical, relationship, associative relationship between, if you want to have all this harvest and reward, you got to kill them all. So there's an ending there, conclusion. It's like, this is why back in the in the goat moon, we ask questions of like, how do we conclude? How do we actually, as summer is kind of actually coming to an end, what's our mind for conclusion? What would fruition look like? What would fulfillment look like? What would satisfaction look like? Right? We don't ask those questions because we don't live seasonally, and our mindset in this culture is to be perpetually in growth.
Wow, that really just landed when you said, what would satisfaction look like? And I wonder if the reason why we can't get no satisfaction is because we wouldn't even know if we had it.
Yeah, if it's a snake, it wouldn't have bit you, you wouldn't even notice, we never slow down enough to find out. That's part of the problem. We're constantly reaching. It's very complicated. I mean, in a sense, just to kind of unpack it, because Ming often talked about this sense of mediocrity, the mediocrity of the culture that we're in. We're always chasing something that seems just around the corner, probably never going to get there. So why really even try? Or I'll kind of try. I really do want it, or I'll sign myself up for something that's completely like I'm going to be a rock star, and 999 out of 1,000 actually never, we want these big things that are completely unattainable because we don't really have, the culture doesn't teach us, this current particular iteration of modern culture doesn't teach us what it means to have a realistic assessment of what our actual resources is, how to stay with those things, right? This isn't a moral condition. It's actually just about being perceptive. What our realistic situation actually is, so we can monitor what our situation is so that we can actually take the leap, for what it is we want. But we already just sort of fantasizing about what we're leaping at. We don't really, it's like trying to do a high jump and not even having a good pair of shoes. And I think that's part of, like we could sit here all night and point out the problems with the culture that we're in. But as it relates to specifically this going into autumn period, it can be really stressful because we've never actually taken on seasonally the notion of what it means to conclude. How do I end something so that I can begin again? What are the resources that I use? Okay, if I could do an abacus, these are the outlays that I did back in the spring. I put this out, and this is the thing. These are the things I got back. Chickens coming home to roost. That's what this is all about. So in a water tiger year, there's a long time and short time, right? So the things, any water year, there's definitely a propensity for long time to make an appearance. Okay.
Makes sense, so, sure.
Right. Well, also memory, things we've forgotten coming back. Right? In a water tiger year, yeah. I mean, don't come to a. Basically, I say don't come to a tiger year looking for comfort.
Wow.
So this is the moon. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the moon where you really like the hammer, the axe comes down, and it has to come down. This is the autumn moon. Where that can happen. That's why last moon, we're talking about monkeys and we're talking about imagination and it's more subtle. It's more in monkey moon. It's more of a suggestion. Hey, maybe you should scale back.
Yeah.
And then in the rooster moon, there is consequence because if you don't, or there's just consequence because this is time of consequence and conclusion.
Wow. What a wonderful segue to tell you about the tea that we're drinking today. Today we're drinking.
Is that Far Leaves?
That is Far Leaves, right? Dear friend Donna and Peter out there at Far Leaves of San Pablo. Hey,
great people.
Good friend of mine, Max, is who gifted us with this Ali Shan. Thank you, Max. Your love. Shout out to you, Max, and thank you for gifting us this wonderful tea that we're enjoying right now. I'm getting some like buttery, creamy notes, like the vegetal floral is really nice.
Definitely not very bitter.
Yeah, I'm not using that hot of water. I don't want to scald it. And I love brewing Ali Shan for Shannon because our dear teacher Ming,
Yeah.
he loved this.
It's birthday coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, next week, right?
Pretty soon. 17?
Whoa.
Yes, yeah.
It's your partner.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, it's yummy, right? It's tea, not whiskey, okay? Sip it slow. Okay. So what else we got for a full Rooster? Should I ask questions?
Any question is good. There's there's this great quote that was sent to me by my friend Brooke. And I can't remember the writer, but she also studied with Ming. She's a acupuncturist practitioner out on the East Coast, and it had a lot to do with like this vulnerability. I'll read a quote at some point, but just to talk about this idea of conclusions and endings and transformations. Drawing our chi inward. You know, there's transitioning from yang to yin. Yang is, I just wrote recently, yang is the flying arrow, right? And yin is the bow or the quiver, right? All of these are sort of organizing our resources to be able to launch into fulfillment, you know, hitting the target. So utilizing this image, as yin chi takes charge, this is actually, I think today begins, there's this chi node before it comes to equinox. Yeah, so I mean, it's upon us. Yin is actually like definitely eroding, you know, everything that's extraneous, but it's really not even about a value system. Like, if this is important, it won't erode it. Everything gets sort of eroded, and because the encouragement is to draw inward, and so draw our chi in and down, particularly because it can be preserved. When we draw in and down, it is a retreating pattern that mirrors like the pattern of chi in our environment, right? But even more than that, we have to prepare for the fact that being productive becomes much more strenuous. And we use much more of our own life force and actually keep the same pace. Like actually this resting period, this drawing inward, the second half of, you know, finding conclusion and reward, right? Harvest is also storage of future potential. You have to have a seed crop if you actually want to try to grow again. Yeah. So it's not just, you know, stopping and saving our energy, right? And enjoying, you know, understanding what's satisfaction, what's fulfillment. It's also what comes much more clearly into view is our relationships. And that's actually going to matter like deeply going into the deepest part of yin. So the deepest part of yin is actually in the pig moon. That's where it always bottoms out. What I call like getting to the bottom of the pool. Like right now we're like, we might be able to see the surface still.
Makes sense. Pigs in the mud, pigs like their comfort.
It's yin.
Yeah.
It's just like it's yin within yin. That's pig. That's big. That's big yin. So it's really
pig is second
10. Yes. Yeah. So we will get to the bottom of the pool, and then with the rat, we begin the journey back.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
That's a turn the corner
in
the rat. But the direction we're going now is down. And, you know, so like, who's your people? Who are your friends? You know, like, who are the people that you can really rely on? These are the places where those sharp edges come out. And the sort of difficult conversations, again, like all the things that are being held in over maybe lifetimes, maybe having nothing to do with you at all, you know, but like they're just kind of coming out in this way. That's why, you know, this Ulaanbaatar festival, Hungry Ghost Moon, Last Moon, Same sort of chi energy that's happening now, but it's much more definitive. Much more definitive. And so you need to go with those conclusions. That's the recommendation. Or talk to an astrologer about your particular situation. I mean, it's always complex. But complexity doesn't mean that we should, sweep things under the rug.
Yeah.
We're moving towards simplicity now.
Yeah.
Right. So trying to make things simpler, taking, actually being like, let's clear off this side of the desk. And like, no, this is done. No, that's done too. And like you can actually clear it off so that, and not to put anything else there, but just to have that empty space.
Yeah.
Because empty space is what's going to be dominant, going into the winter.
That makes sense. The draw to simplify and kind of tie up loose ends, because this time of year is also notorious for mental health issues.
Oh yeah.
Right? A lot of mental breakdowns, a
Yeah.
lot of anxiety, panic
Yeah.
attacks, specific to autumn, right? I think it's when the peach blossoms come. I think it's the vernacular, classical idiom.
Right. So true. So true. And what, I think Ming would say, I remember him saying, like, the reason why there's so much anxiety in a rat year is because you're counting. Same sort of thing, energy wise, like with the rooster. Fortunately, again, it's an earth rooster. So there can be this broader perspective that kind of comes in. That's actually the saving grace. So for the most part, if you're fixating, try to back up, try to broaden the situation. Like, I know this is really hard over here, but in the broad scheme of things, I'm doing okay. Like I just wrote something for tomorrow about like comparisons. Like you get in like this person over there, and rooster pride, kind of sizing each other up, walking around the yard. But like backing up a little bit, recognize that like, whoa, like my mental health or well-being not so need to be tied to this comparison, right? I actually am doing really well. Like I got seed in the bank, so to speak, or like I have some level of fluidity I can store, and still enjoy. I can share, I can get into these sorts of exchanges, because the exchanges are really, we can talk about like the X number that makes you feel comfortable, for instance. We really want to be crass about it. But it's really who you have on your side. That's I can't emphasize that enough, because all this, transparency and vulnerability in our experiences is going to become much more, poignant, in the metal dog moon and in the metal pig moon, especially in a water tiger year. It's really important to like, wrap it up. Like, get good with people.
Because
Get good with your people.
this is legit the last moon of autumn, right? The next 3 moons are winter.
Yeah, I mean, you begin. Dog is a transition. It's Earth. It's Earth, and so it facilitates the drawing inward and down to what?
Yeah.
And that is to stillness.
And then you get the pig moon.
And then you get the pig moon, which is to go straight down to the bottom. And then the rat moon sort of gathers what's remaining of your resources, because the notion is like you're not really generating all that much. When you go into these, now it's like you're assessing, not really generating. You're assessing. You have a lot of energy for assessment. It's good to assess, like kind of find out where you're at. Pay off your debts, like get as many things cleared out, and then have a realistic sort of view of what you actually have on hand. That's why I say like this moon, the rooster moon, is just the facts. I'm not looking for any story. I'm just looking to, it's rooster chi is like the materialist of all the earthly branches. It's
You don't say.
Yeah, they're the materialist of the bunch. So like, that's a nice story, but like the level on the sea grain is not very high.
You guys know any materialistic roosters out there, or just me?
There's a place for it. It's the reason why, like, we need that cheat, keep track of things, and to like clean up nonsense. Makes sense, like, okay, let's hear what you saying. Like, let's try to get a level place where we can really have something reliable going in. That's the whole point. Is that reliability becomes even much more accentuated because we're going into a dog moon, and everything is going to be loyalty and affiliation, and some of those things might feel a little edgy because it's a metal dog moon, so there could be still some sorting out. So now it's about clarifying, and don't be afraid of discomfort. I mean, I speak personally on that. Like, it's very interesting. Last time I was here, I come with notes and I got a little self-conscious about that. And it was like, because I hear Matt in my head, our mutual friend, Matt. Hey, Matt. Who says, just wing it, like whatever you got, just you're able to do it. Just trust your skill set. And and I definitely have, especially activated in this moon, this kind of fantasy and how my education process has been transmitted in my life, most of our lives. Get it right. We're all about getting it right. And which is very appropriate for the Rooster moon, but it's also a little crazy making. And that's why you're talking about the mental health stuff. It's very crazy making. So being able to back up on like our imperatives, the things that just kind of like, you can't not do, you feel like it's, well, that's just the way it is. I have to, like trying to back up on all of those things that feel a little bit more compulsive. I think is a good opportunity in a Rooster moon, this particular Rooster moon, because that compulsion has a history that may be in this lifetime, maybe outside this lifetime. And a water tiger moon, your level of discontent, has a very long precedent. And that's one of the things that's really difficult about any tiger moon, or any tiger year. Like, you don't come to Tiger Chi for comfort. And so it's like being able to ride the discomfort has been the case all throughout the year. So I've been telling people, dude, get ready for winter because you think it's been uncomfortable now, to this point. It's been crazy, so much movement. You gotta be really ready to take a deep dive. What's that look like for you?
I'll tell you what it looks like for me. The instant Chinese New Year, the moment Tiger Year started for me, I threw my back out. For 3 months, I wasn't the same. And then it transitioned from my lower back to my right hip. Had that for another 3 months. I'm only just now kind of getting a semblance.
Yeah.
This monkey got hit hard by Tiger Year, right? And very uncomfortable. And I'm a mover. I'm used to having my body available to me.
Right.
And to be crippled with pain and discomfort and just having to deal with it all year. Yeah, Tiger Year, not a place for comfort. Thank you. Very affirming.
Yeah.
Anybody else get injured this year and have lingering injuries this year?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. I've been pretty low key. I mean, I'm very blessed to be able to be sort of in a den for most of the year. I have to pop out my head every so often and be like, is everything okay? But it's, and I think it's just, I'm reminding myself that as a water, especially as a water character, water tiger, going into yin, going into big yin, going into winter, a lot of things coming up. And think ahead, next year, also not so much of a picnic. I mean, with the water rabbit year. Yeah, it's a lot of the discontent, depression, like really you can, so we're getting a peak, I guess is my point. At this point, like recognizing the direction that we're headed is like, there's there's a threshold there, for us to actually get a feeling for what the potential of spring might be, whether good things, bad things, apprehensions, things that we wish for. All of those things are like a mirror right now. Fall, autumn, mirroring the spring to come, right? There's the idea behind, seed crop. What am I bringing forward, into that next year? Shouldn't think so like discreetly, like these things are all connected, obviously, so preparing now, the reason why we should be willing to conclude and draw inward is because as we do, we get a very good look about the kinds of things we might be able to expect in the spring, and what form our aspirations might be able to take, because that's the idea of going inward, is that in those places in the dark you can shape your aspirations, and not in a more genuine, just in a different, maybe it's the same thing. Maybe you're lucky, you know what you want. This is your chance to double check. Are you sure?
I like how that's considered luck. You know what you want.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it could be lucky, maybe.
Interesting.
Right.
Well, we talked about kind of going into rabbit year, and before that, we talked about going into dog moon.
Yeah.
You talked about loyalty coming up, and I also understand naivete to be like the caution for
with the dog.
And so here we are, dog moon, however year going forward. Yeah, loyalty, but clarity, I believe, is a theme for you. Might make sense to get clear on your loyalties and relations to make sure you don't walk in naive.
Yeah, I think that's part of the simplification process. Nobody wants to say like, oh, I put all my people through a cost benefit analysis every year.
A Facebook friend list.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. Do it now, they won't notice next moon. But if you do it next moon, they'll notice. Yeah. So, but we do it. There is a cost benefit analysis that we're doing. We're constantly judging each other. We just are. I don't know. Again, it's not a moral system. It's not a moral outlook. It's just recognizing where the chi is going. If you're drawing inward, there's only so much you have for other people. And that's just real, that's just about being real. That's not about like being, it could be ego attached to it. You have to be aware of your own process. But I think the only way you find out if you're being an idiot is if you trust yourself. And then you go, wow, okay, no, that didn't work out. And like my motives weren't the best. I'll try again, But if you're constantly hemming and hawing and you don't want to make a mistake, like you don't get very far in terms of your own contemplative capacity of your own experience, which is really what it's all about, not really trying to present a set of guidelines that are objectively true. It's part of, you're really just working with the material in your own experiences, basic principles about drawing inward and having like some sort of litmus test for what you expend your chi on. And that process, we can be generous. There's nothing wrong with being generous, because autumn is also a time of abundance, recognizing the richness, right? You're like, you know what, here you go. Like no attachments, like this is my gesture, and your ancestors are all behind that as well. But then there will be a period of time where constriction becomes much more of a reality. Frankly, if anybody's watching this, tomorrow is sort of the beginning of that process, because each one of the moons, we go through each of the seasons, right? Okay. We've already gone through technically what's called spring and winter, right? And so tomorrow on Thursday is the beginning of each week, right? Is the beginning of the autumn
Hold on. Thursday is the beginning of the week?
So Thursday to Wednesday.
Okay.
So we begin the autumn week, technically the direction of autumn,
Mhm.
the white tiger,
Mhm.
which is the clarifying, transparency.
Yeah.
Um,
The West of Wudang West.
yeah. And so you're matching the idea in these next few days, particularly, is it's an integrity game. Like no hypocrisy, please. This is genuinely what I'm saying on the inside or on the outside, what I feel on the inside. Very important to get clear, in our own contemplative process about that relationship. Then whether it fails us, whether it like gives us tons of reward, whether we feel at home or completely abandoned, if we were good here, then we're good. That's the idea. So this is this particular autumn week sort of begins that experience of like, how do I measure up? Like, am I actually saying and doing the things I say? Do I really mean it?
Integrity check.
Yeah, yeah. And because hypocrisy is like the biggest chi waster of all time.
Mm.
Yeah, like, and it would be devastating to carry hypocrisy into winter. Devastating. So
Yeah.
don't.
Very inefficient use of resources.
Man, you're just like leaking chi.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like stepping on the gas and the brake.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And puncturing the gas tank. Yeah, you shorten your life real quick. So
Wow.
yeah, and does that mean we get to, is that clarifying process productive?
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe not. I mean, how would you know? You may not know for a while, is the answer. So don't be in a rush, to know, even though it's kind of this rooster moon experience, I think it's just good to recognize that like you're following through on something or initiating this kind of drawing inward and things kind of feel clumsy, maybe in that process. It's still good to just be patient with that process. Don't second guess. Once you're going in that direction, keep going. I wanted to read that quote from my friend Brooke. The only choice we have as we mature is how we inhabit our vulnerability, how we become larger and more courageous and more compassionate through our intimacy with disappearance. Our choice is to inhabit vulnerability as generous citizens of loss, robustly and fully, or conversely, as misers and complainers, reluctant and fearful, always at the gates of existence, but never bravely and completely attempting to enter, never wanting to risk ourselves, never walking fully through the door. That's David White.
I like that word, miser.
Miserly,
Yeah, such a good insult.
the citizens of loss. I like that piece. They're all citizens of loss. It's a very poignant theme, in the Water Tiger year, which is we're all citizens of loss. There's not a thing we devote ourselves to that doesn't end. That's okay, and we don't know when that happens. In a Water Tiger year, it can happen tomorrow. And working with that knowledge is not a fatalism. It's this coming into reality. So if we have this experience, you know, this quote kind of points to, this is the direction of our winter, into that kind of vulnerability. Actually, she sent me this like an hour before I came here. Yeah. I was like, what? Thank you. You just handed me my entire direction.
For real.
Yeah, it was like super cool.
You
Yeah.
didn't even need notes.
No, it was all right there. Thank you, Brooke.
So I'm not even counting, but that's what, 6, 7 seats?
It's now really good. It's almost like, oh, great.
Yeah, you know, I only use a little bit of leaf, and what, it just blooms to take the entire gallon. You might even be able to see it's like mounding out.
It's now just sublime.
The endurance on these leaves, my goodness. And you know, now that they've been cooking a little bit, tell me if you smell it. I don't want to tell you what it is, because I don't want you to look for it or make believe, but see if you smell what I'm smelling.
Uh-oh. The test.
The test, the palate test.
Huh.
I smell collard greens.
What? I can
Like charred. You know?
I can smell.
Well, soul cooking roots. Soul cooking.
Mm.
Yeah, a little chardy.
Mm-hmm.
A little ham hot chardy.
I love chum.
Yummy. Great food for the season, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pumpkin latte.
Yeah,
Season.
spiced pumpkin latte. I mean,
Yeah.
not right now. It's like 114 degrees out, but
But
California is dying and turning into a desert. I rode up to Reading yesterday. It was, I don't want to say an impulse, like I have a motorcycle and it needed a new saddle, and so I went. And but I made this appointment like weeks ago, and it was the heat dome. I'm still doing it, you know. So the ride up was great because it was at 5 o'clock in the morning. But the ride back, and it's stunning, like to see like parts of the 5 coming back from Reading, or the 505, particularly that whole stretch of the 505 it splits off and goes to the 80. That whole area is no real developments, just wide open. It's just gold. It's yeah, the Golden State, but it's like burnt grass, you know, like.
Oh, that kind of gold.
But it was a gold that was just so bright. It on the particularly one stretch, I remember it was so bright that it really looked like sand dunes. Yeah, I was like, this is
Whoa.
it. This is like California is turning into a desert.
Swear.
Yeah.
Unless, well, you know, kind of segue off topic, on topic, but our brother Matt Lucas out in Hawaii right now doing all that soil
He's gonna send us the
restoration
rain.
work. Well, they're sending the rain, and there's also kind of just working with the moisture you got and keeping it, you know. And
Yeah.
his buddy Gary that he's out there kind of working with, I'm blown away. He sent me a video, I believe, of a project out in Arizona, literally desert. And through permaculture, they created their own microclimate. Now they literally have an oasis in the middle of the desert. And so, you know, I feel we're all California residents. Talks about bringing life to the land in this way. And, you know, kind of wishful thinking, but maybe California and then maybe the whole West Coast up through Canada, we could salvage the Jesus complex in the speaking fest.
We've been poor stewards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's inarguable. You know, European colonial presence, their arrival, and then their maintenance has been subpar. I don't think you can really mince words on that. I think it's been subpar, you know, and like the techniques that we brought are you know, the extractive techniques, mostly extractive minded, and they they don't last by design. Whether it's intentional or not, or just doesn't matter. It's not working. So I think because it's not working, there's always a response, historically speaking, when those sorts of things happen. You know, the invaders leave. There's nothing left to steal, and then the old ways take over. Whether the old ways are carried forward by people of indigenous descent, or whether those people who have adopted indigenous practices sincerely, you know, it would be necessary for the areas to become habitable, to actually be able to subsist, you know, to be able to be there. And sometimes I think we need to be brought to, just individually and then also as a people, need to be brought to places of discomfort, you know, radical discomfort, to understand the ways we're using our energy.
Yeah, so everybody needs a tiger year. Get uncomfortable.
Hey, it's been working for me. Yeah. Many more ways than one.
So we have Mary. Hi, Mary.
Hey, Mary. What's up?
You got a question for Seanan? Let's see if I could hear you.
Hi, no, I don't have a question. I've just been enjoying listening.
Oh, thank you very much.
The banter, the long form conversation. All right. Wish you were here, Mary, having some tea with us. Glad to have you.
Likewise, that's just looks yummy.
Very lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if the metaverse will integrate like smell and taste into their virtual realities. They already have the texture, right? They have the suit, so you get the tactile sensation. But smell and taste, it's going to be an interesting one. Because then we can really share.
Yeah. Electrodes to
Yeah, electrodes in your mouth, on your tongue. Or maybe it'll be like a soda dispenser where it has all the different syrups. And it's like, oh, it needs to taste like chicken. Oh, it needs to taste like collard greens. Anyway, okay, so no question from Mary. Max, you stepped in. You have a question?
I guess I'm not too knowledgeable. I don't really know what these like kind of different animal-based things are.
Okay.
Cool. Can I answer that? I feel this one. At least the order. I can't speak to much of the moons either, but I at least know the order. Okay. Starts from my ring finger. Right?
Where are you gonna start?
Yeah, I'm gonna start right here. Okay. And I was curious about the Wednesday, Thursday thing. Don't let me forget about that. Okay. Rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, right? I'm going by each digit, right? And so rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, pig, right? It's 12 spots all the way around. Now, I'm curious because there's 13 moons, but 12 animals.
Well, the 13th one is like an extra that's occasionally thrown in, right? Not every year.
So it's like a leap moon.
It's a leap moon. Yeah, they have it's a lunar solar calendar, so you always have an intercalary moon about every 3 or 4 years, where one of them will repeat. I did a lot of calculations about this like last year. I was like trying to get a grip on like why, and there's a reason, like I need to know, and like actually there's no reason. I mean, it's just part of the cycle. So there's no I can't remember like what it is. It's just set by the tradition that this is the case and how it goes. It's not the only lunar solar calendar that does that. The Jewish calendar does that. One other one too, maybe the Hindu. Yeah. So it's because the calculation we give, you know, there's a shortage. It's like I think every moon there's like every moon it's like either half a day or a day and a half, something like that. And then over, 3 or 4 years, you got to throw an extra moon in there, kind of correct everything. I mean, it's a lunar minded. So, I mean, it's the same thing, just drop a piece of knowledge here. The 28 lunar indicators, not all the same size. Some of them are only as big as like 3 hours.
Whoa.
And other ones are like 3.5 days. Yeah, but we give each one of them a day.
Yeah.
And I've thought about like, how could I figure out which ones are 3.5 days and then base the writing off that, right? So I'm like de-emphasizing maybe one of the smaller ones that's poignant, but it's over by like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the rest of the day kind of goes in a different direction. But, you know, Ming's teaching on that was like, just give them all a day. Don't trip, you know, like basically because it's the reason why many times people will say, oh, I loved your writing. I felt it yesterday. Or I don't feel this until tomorrow. And that's actually how the system works.
Interesting.
This is- It's not this isn't a clock. You know, it's not a Swiss clock, you know, not a German clock. It's a shadow clock.
Quartz. Piezoelectric.
Yeah, precision, not part of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, even in a Rooster moon, where like we have an appetite to be precise, but it's all best guess. That's what life is. That's baked into the calendar. It's best guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Can't get too precise. Now it depends when you're talking about the earthly branches, what are called the earthly branches, the 12 animals, all the animals. They represent, from a calendar point of view, they represent, you know, the sequence of time. In spring, would be associated with the wood element, and wood element comes in 2 flavors. It comes in a yang flavor, which is tiger, and a yin flavor, which is rabbit. And then from spring, the wood element, summer, becomes the fire element. And that also comes in 2 flavors, horse, snake, and horse. Right? And then
Snake, fire.
snake is fire. And I mean, for someone who's been studying this, you know, for close to a decade, you know, with Ming, you know, and now without Ming, like for a few years, it is very interesting to think about snake as being from the standpoint of character. When we're doing calculations on individual characters or the character of a building, for instance, and a snake year is kind of this withdrawing, you know, transparent, secretive kind of chief, but it's actually what kicks summer off.
Yeah. I can see it as like a yin fire.
Yes,
And also Tail of the Dragon too.
exactly. Yeah.
In that regard.
So there's a self-evidency, basically, when it comes to snake chief. Self-evidently the case. These are the things that are going forward. Like, so get on it. You know, like these are the directions that are obviously opening up. And that has to do with forces we can't possibly comprehend. And that's a very snake way of looking at things. But I don't know how I came out into my garden. You know, I left my chart and it looked one way. I came out the next day and it's double the size. Like, how is that possible? But somehow it's possible. And that points to this kind of otherworldly quality that comes with fire and growth. And then in the autumn is the metal element, and that comes in the flavors of monkey and the rooster. And then when you get to winter, it's just water. And water comes in the flavors of pig and the rat. So that's only 8 of the 12. 4 more are basically interspersed through the year, and they represent these sort of like grand pivot points for Earth. And that is the dragon, the goat, dog, and the ox. And what Earth represents is continuity, the fact that this will continue. There was no point of beginning because it's always been, and there is no possible ending because it will always be. And this is the nature of time. And it's not a matter of faith. It's just a matter of our experience that things change form constantly. the grand, the procession of chi is yin and yang, one giving way to the next. And that when you add the 5 elements into that procession becomes grand. It becomes this peak coming down to this valley, not just step by step, 1 foot in front of the other, but it gives texture. But the fact is, there's a compound and processional nature of all of life. And in the season, you see this compound and processional. So now this is like, the Earth Rooster and this moon would be a little bit like descending into the valley, right? What can I carry? What do I need to leave behind? What's my route for coming back? Even though I don't know if it'll work. It doesn't matter. What have I used in the past? What is the continuity? Because it's the Earth. You're basically going with a recipe that's tried and true. They're going with the recipe that was handed down to me from my grandmothers. And that'd be very positive, sense of direction, understanding, getting a sense of composure with ourselves. Who are we in this world? Right before you go into winter when everything comes apart. It's good to have like an understanding of who you are in the world, even if like you have no guarantee that any of this will last. So what? Like, this is what's up right now. That's good enough. This is the whole nature and the meaning of ritual in the Chinese tradition. We have no idea what's going to happen. We do this ritual. That's okay. This ritual has momentum. This ritual has was handed down. This is just a way for me to get some kind of my bearings. If it doesn't work, I ask again. This, like the nature of ritual isn't like, pleading, like you're working with the situation you're in, you get some feedback. This is the nature of divination. You don't really like it. So you work with it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I gotta ask again.
Yeah.
Right? The Taoists would give you better days to ask.
Mhm.
But the uncertainty never changes. But there are some points in the calendar when the uncertainty is very poignant. So that's really the idea, behind the 12 animals are a timekeeping device. It's a timekeeping technology. And it was once upon a time, still is related to your pulse, meaning that you are an embodiment of time. Knowing your own chi character, you could take your pulse and know what time it is based on how that pulse.
Stop it.
Yeah, this is the old way.
That's your original watch?
Is your pulse. There's always your pulse.
Wow.
Is your pulse, and then also your environment. Your environment and your pulse. If you know that you're like, you belong here. You belong here. And so your pulse tells you where you are. So the assumption is you've never been lost. And if you feel like you're lost, it's actually a misapprehension.
So romantic.
I know, I love it too.
Well, speaking of ritual, what a lovely tea ritual, and
So good.
what a ritual that these conversations are becoming now our 3rd iteration. We made it through our 1st quarter.
Nice. Yeah. It's been good. I appreciate the opportunity to, as I was talking about with like the notes thing and this maybe compulsion to get things right. So I think that any path, any spiritual path that we're on in life should actually challenge your prejudice. You should have an opportunity to kind of like, my first teacher would say, take yourself in hand and examine your prejudices, which of course is uniquely its own bias. that my spiritual path is only, legitimate if it actually challenges me. That's a bias too. But yeah, so it's taken me a long time in studying this just to be able to kind of like, listen, you don't have to get it right. You're just throwing it out there. And if it's helpful, that's great. But even if it's not, like I said when I first got here, like I'm very content to do this alone. But it's actually better to like just sort of open up and even talk about the process of trying to study this stuff because no, really, it's too easy for me to behave like an egghead, and so it's nice to have an opportunity where it's not so much about that, oh, you know so much, like Ming would talk about that. It's like, what's the benefit here? And it's always a chi exchange and an opportunity to just kind of like get over yourself. Like I spent a lot of time doing this. We spent a lot of time doing forms. Like at some point in time, you just have to kind of let go. And can you fight with the form? That's what Matt taught me. Can you fight with the form? Can you actually fight with the form? Most of forms, no. But some you can, but it's also you. How do you relate to the form? Yeah.
Odd side note, when I was in Wudang, there was a competition specific to that point. Can you fight with this particular style that has its signatures? For example, Xingyi fighters, can you stay on the one line? Bagua fighters, can you really walk the circlet and integrate spiral power?
Right.
Because a lot of these people, I'm a Tai Chi fighter, or I'm a this fighter, but you get them in the ring,
Yeah.
it's just kickboxing, bro.
Yeah. Everybody uses the same 5 things.
Yeah. And then so there was a legit competition in China where they wanted to use a specific style called Tai Yu Xing Chuan, which is a lot of joint locking, a lot of like turning, waist power, and Chinese television, CCTV. Come to find out, they've been done several shows of this particular show, and it's all choreographed. That's how they got away with it. That's how they made the style look like, and then it was all rigged. And I don't tell this to many people, but they chose me to be the particular winner because I'm big, handsome, I speak Chinese, but I turned it down. My teacher came in my room, my grandmaster sat on my bed, said, do this competition, I'll make you a star. And I said, I don't want it. I came to Wudang for this, not this, right? And it was a hard thing, but my grandmaster actually respected me.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I lost a big face for the production company, but big honor in the long run. Yeah, can you fight with that style? Maybe not. I know Matt can.
I know Matt can too.
Shout out to Matt.
Yeah. No, he taught me that. He put that in my head, so like in the Bard Form 1, I work with that, as a method if I'm in I'm definitely with it.
Get some
yoga. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, I've never experienced anything, in terms of training in a martial art where you actually could translate a form. I've studied so many forms, and forms, they're great for learning. That's the idea. You learn the priorities and principles of your system through the form. But to actually like demonstrate the form in a barroom fight, so to speak.
I like that you chose that word priority of your system. Brother, we're on our hour and we're not talking about astrology anymore.
No. So. Wrap it up, son.
All right. Mary, thank you so much. Max, thank you so much. We're drinking your tea.
It's great tea.
Join us next month. Will be dog moon, full moon. We'll give you a 24-hour notice before the next stop.
Goodness. So, Jen.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.